I'm legally insane. And everyone on YouTube is saying that the GameCube bubble is popping. I am hearing popular YouTubers tell me and you that GameCube prices are falling because demand is dead, because the hype is over. We've been told that GameCube hype peaked in the summer of 2020, that the demand is dropping, that people are disinterested in the GameCube. But is the hype really over? Is any of this true? Well, let's find out. But unlike the other YouTubers, we're going to back it all up with actual evidence and facts. Let's get started. I'm making this video to address the chatter that I'm hearing from many YouTubers looking to capitalize on the uneducated brokies to tell them what they want to hear, because it gets a lot of views and it's very popular to do so here on YouTube. And a lot of people are getting false information because of that. You can get a lot of views telling the brokies that prices are crashing or that they're about to crash or that the hype in GameCube is over, which that's partially true. We'll get into that though. But it's only very partially true and mostly incorrect. But the reality is that those prices continue to rise to this day for the majority of GameCube games. Any GameCube game that is worth anything, the trend is continuing for the most part, the majority. Some are dropping, and I'll show you both sides of the coin. I will show you games that have dropped, and they're harder to find, especially when comparing them to the so-called peak, July-August 2020 peak. You'd be hard-pressed to find a game that's cheaper today than it was back then. I'm not going to be explaining in this video why prices may or may not be going up. That's not what this is about. We're not talking about the macroeconomics here or other factors. We're not talking about supply and demand. We're not talking about M2 money supply. We're not talking about inflation. We're not talking about hidden gems no longer being hidden. We're just looking at the data. What's going on with GameCube games? Well, let's start with 3 games that were recently shown in a video. I'm not going to call out any names on any particular YouTubers. The one YouTuber that I was watching, I'm a subscriber. He makes great content. Okay, I'm not even going to put his name out there because I don't want anyone to think negatively about this YouTuber. Like I said, he consistently pumps out great content. He just happens to be wrong in this very specific situation. But 3 games that were named, one of which was Kirby Air Ride, suggesting that because this YouTuber sees that the game is in stock on GameStop, whereas it was not in stock in 2020. You couldn't get it July, August 2020. You couldn't even get a copy in stock because of that hype that had happened, which is true. Remember that massive wave 1 move that we got in GameCube prices, that COVID boom? Well, let's start looking at these individual games. Kirby Air Ride, as of July 2020. This game was, I could take my shades off for this, $57 US. And in, August, July, it was roughly the same price, and that was the peak during 2020 for some time. I guess in this particular game, it continued to rise. Beyond that, that was not actually the peak. In fact, as of this chart, which is the hard evidence, the peak in demand on Kirby didn't actually occur until just recently. Shockingly, April 2025, just a few months ago, 5 years after, 4 or 5 years later, the thing is still going up. And guess what? Even without this recent $125 US dollar move, currently price charting for $90 US, which is significantly higher than the old high, summer 2020, of roughly $60. That's a 50% increase. Demand is not dropping on Kirby's Air Ride. Well, let's look at another one. Mario Kart Double Dash, a very common game, and there is a special edition as well. In this particular scenario, this is just the regular edition. We're not even talking about the special edition. Oh yeah, and by the way, Kirby Air Ride recently had sold listings way above $90. 109.99 right up here. $185 down here. This guy is absolutely insane for paying that. But, it's trending above $100 in more recent times. This one here is not even CIB. So you can ignore $75 copy here. June 27th, $110. $205 down here. So yeah, sometimes people must be paying up. Maybe it's mint condition copy. I don't know what the deal is, why somebody would pay that. But people are willing to pay it. And guess what? That ain't no reseller paying these prices, you absolute retard. These are collectors. People like you and me. Let's fly through a whole bunch of these. Mario Kart Double Dash. Peaked at a whopping parabolic move, absolute parabolic move. That shows you the absolute demand vastly outweighing supply during that 2020 gap. When you get a parabolic move like that, it's because the demand is overwhelming. You cannot have parabolic moves like that without demand being absolutely overwhelming to the point where supply can't keep up. So when a price stabilizes, as you can see, we're in a trading range here. We've been in a trading range for a very long time on Mario Kart Double Dash. That is because the market is at equilibrium right now. Supply and demand are roughly matched together. That is the way it should be under normal circumstances. That is a healthy market. Just because this price hasn't gone up or hasn't gone down, that doesn't mean that people are disinterested. It just simply means the demand is being met by the supply. There is an equilibrium. Sellers are not willing to drop the price, and buyers aren't willing to pay more. Just because you throw up a copy for $500 doesn't mean somebody's going to buy it. Let's have a look at Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Very good game, by the way. GameCube exclusive. Was trading at roughly $40. Peaked out summer of 2020 at $40 and has not stopped climbing since. Nothing goes straight up, nothing goes straight down. And currently today it's trading almost double US dollars. 71.15 USD, that's $100 Canadian. This is Canadian dollars down here. I switch back and forth consistently. Sold listings going as high as $137 Canadian recently. What is that in USD? That's $100 USD, $100. It's significantly higher than 71.15 down here. But that's, pretty fair value for what it is. And no, these are recent sold listings. This is within the last 3 days. Look at this. What day is it today? I'm filming this on the 19th, and there's a sold listing on the 19th today, $70. Yesterday, $77. Yesterday, $79. And the day before that, $90. And a couple days prior to that, $100. Wild fluctuations, but condition plays a factor. Was shipping included or not? That also plays a factor. But these are general guidelines, and you can see the trend. But before we go into more games, here is the general chart for all GameCube games combined. Every single game combined. And as you can clearly see the COVID boom. It never really peaked out at all. It just kept going. When you combine all GameCube games together, you can really see what the real trend is. And this is interesting. This is my first time seeing this. You can see straight line up. It didn't even pause until May of 2021. Brief pause, and then continued to 2022, where it's roughly flatlined all the way until December 2024. So round up 2025. So it's now making, on this chart combining all games together, this might be a wave 2 move, as a matter of fact. This whole bar here, that's a wave 1 from 2020 to 2022. That is a wave. for the most part, let's just say a wave 1 move in GameCube. You could argue down here was wave 1. Wave 1 or 2 doesn't matter what wave number it is. It's going up to wave 69 before this thing is done anyway.
69.
And prices are still climbing. And you don't get a climb in prices without demand. So now that you've seen this chart, let's have a look at some comments that the community has made. I might choose to block out the YouTuber's name, but I might not, because if you make a comment on YouTube, on the internet, it's public forever. So I might not block it out. When people listen to YouTubers and take the information as fact without actually verifying anything, they just automatically assume, oh, the YouTuber is telling me what I want to hear. I want the prices to come down. I'm sick of the prices going up because I'm broke and I can't afford them. And for the record, guys, I would love to pay $50 or $5 even for Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo. I can't afford it right now. It's a 400 Canadian dollar game, and that's if you can get it for that price with a good label. Okay? I would love to own it. I've been priced out of that game. I'm saving up money to try and purchase that game. So I know what it's like to not be able to afford games. I can't afford Little Samson. I've been priced out of the market, but I don't bitch and whine about it and tell everyone that resellers causes a Little Samson to go to $3,000. No, it's supply and demand. Okay, I don't bitch and whine because I'm broke and I can't afford Little Samson. I can't afford it. That's the reality of the situation. And some of these people are dirt broke and they can't even afford a $75 game. And they, instead of understanding market conditions, they listen to YouTubers giving them false information. Well, this user says, no, it's actually, he's responding to the YouTuber telling him that GameCube demand is dropping, prices are dropping. No, it's actually the fact that these games are so expensive. They're so expensive now that nobody cares for them for the time being. Nobody is willing to pay that much for these games. That's why there is this wave of disinterest for GameCube games. So this guy drank the Kool-Aid. He thinks that there's no interest in paying these high prices for GameCube games. Well, let's see who's paying the high prices. Here is Zelda, Twilight Princess for the Nintendo GameCube, which, by the way, has 2 different alternative and much cheaper versions. Because some of you might be saying, well, why would anybody pay, like this commenter, why would anybody pay $150 for this game? Used to be $90, peaked out in September 2020 before continuing to almost double. Do you think that this thing is going to be any cheaper? Do you think this thing is going back down to $10 because nobody's willing to pay the high prices? Nobody's willing to pay $160? Looks like somebody just did today. $160, $160, $200, $150, $140, $150, $150, $160, $170, $150, $160, $150, sells all day, every day. How many of these sold listings are on June 13th alone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sold listings in one day alone for a common game. With a Wii U alternative that is in HD, arguably significantly better for that reason, with the Wii U gamepad and amiibo support. And there's also a Nintendo Wii edition for significantly cheaper. Yet people are paying the, quote, high prices. But some commenter just told me that nobody's willing to pay them because a YouTuber told him what he wanted to hear. But what's this? Nobody's willing to pay these high prices? This looks like a pretty expensive game. $159 or $154.99 US dollars and still climbing. Pokemon Coliseum. Here's a much cheaper game, Resident Evil. The OG, the remake on the GameCube, trading for 44 Canadian or 32 USD. And what's this? Ever since 2020, bottomed out in July 2019 for $10, $9.18. Straight line up ever since. Almost at all-time highs at present time. At present time of recording, straight line up nonetheless. Nobody's willing to pay for these GameCube games. The hype is dead. Well, I'm not seeing the hype dead. I see demand increasing every single year. Here's one that's dropped. Let's mix this in real quick. Disney's hide and seek. I mean, I'm sure it's a completely garbage game. I have no idea why it made a massive parabolic move. It peaked out at wow. And there are several games that did drop, especially if they had a remake. I'm not going to touch too much on them, but here's a great example. Was a $70 game. Currently, it's dropped as low as 37, but if you notice, it's still higher than that 2020 level. And it may have bottomed at 33. In 2020, summer of 2020, you could have got it for $23. It's, 50% higher today, if not more. Ribbit King, also one that's trending lower, perhaps has bottomed out. A lot of support around that $150 US dollar level. But once again, it's still more expensive than it was in 2020. Let's rapid fire through a whole bunch of these. F-Zero, still higher than it was in 2020. Zelda Wind Waker, which also has a alternative, still higher than it was in 2020. As an alternative on the Wii U. And it's still, price is still going up because people are interested in GameCube games. Judge Dredd, here's a good one. Bit of a hidden gem that the market's waking up to. Peaked out in roughly September 2020 during that COVID boom, $53. Currently almost double, 33%, over 50% higher at roughly $80 today. Animal Crossing is one of the very rare ones that actually did peak out at its peak in 2020, April 2020 to be specific. I think that was probably related to the Switch version coming out. I don't know what year that came out, but I would guess 2020. If I were a betting man, I'm guessing it was 2020. And that just was like the perfect storm. And it's just kind of stuck in a trade range since then. It bottomed at roughly $50. A lot of support around $50. It's bounced off that support multiple times, meaning you're not going to get it cheaper. In fact, it might even be uptrending more toward that $75 level at present. Here's a great example of a game that recently hit an all-time high. So you can't tell me GameCube demand and the market is disinterested in GameCube games when GameCube games are still making literally all-time highs today, right now. 3707 on NHL Hits 2003. And there's hundreds of examples. I just threw up a bunch of random ones. I wrote down like 100 different examples that I could have showed you in this video, but I've already gone way over time here. I do want to show you another commenter here who says people are realizing that those games, being GameCube games, are too expensive for what they are. Is a game that I might only play a few hours really worth $75 to $100? Well, maybe not to you, but to other people, they are. And that's what the market is telling you. I'm not telling you this. The market is telling you this. The market has already proven this. Gamers are realizing that they can get similar experiences for much cheaper prices, i.e., why pay $70 for Mario Kart Double Dash when you can just get Mario Kart Wii around $25? Well, I just showed you that. You're saying that no one would pay $75 for Mario Kart Wii, but they've been paying over $66, the peak of 2020. They've been paying $70 and higher for almost 5 years straight. 5 years in a row. They have been paying the exact price that you're saying they're not paying. And you're saying that because a YouTuber told you that. Here's a user who says the GameCube was the least popular of its generation, not including the Dreamcast, so it's not surprising to me. He's saying that it's not surprising that people are disinterested. He's correct in the first half of his comment, because the GameCube was not a popular console. I've talked about this in the past. we made fun of kids that had GameCubes. I felt bad for kids that had a GameCube. I genuinely felt bad. I had an Xbox. Friends I knew had either Xboxes or PS2s or Dreamcasts or all of the above, but no GameCubes. What he doesn't get is that this is a reason why the prices are going up, because the GameCube was not popular back then, but it is today. The market had not woken up to how great of a console the GameCube was. It's like the Sega Saturn. It's the Sega Saturn of its generation. Nobody wanted the Sega Saturn back then either. And go look at the Sega Saturn prices today. Go look at them. It's important to know that people that grew up on the GameCube today, it's been about 20 years since the release of the GameCube. Okay, there's this 20-year nostalgia cycle. So, for example, a kid that grew up on the GameCube between 2002 and 2006 could have been between 8 and 12 years old. Right? That maybe the GameCube was his equivalent of the NES or Super Nintendo for somebody of my generation, just to give you an example. Well, those kids today are now between 28 to 34 years old, right now in 2025. These are the collectors that are really going in hard on the GameCube. You know, I'm collecting GameCube too. I didn't have a GameCube back in the day. I'm one of the people that went kind of hard on it, but I'm small fish. I'm just a small fish collector, buddy. I don't have any of those super rare games. I don't have any of the $500 GameCube games. There's games that I would like to have. Code Veronica, for example, Resident Evil Code Veronica. GameCube version is the best version, arguably. I would love to have it, but I don't have the money. I'm in the same boat you are. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Now, if I get rich, I'll happily buy it. And the people with the money are the ones who are happily buying it. They're the ones that have brought the market to equilibrium, supply and demand. The people with money outweigh me and you, the brokies that can't afford Resident Evil Code Veronica on the GameCube. So I have to settle for the PS2 version. And that version sucks. That's why people want the GameCube version. That's why they're willing to pay so much for it. My subscribers, they understand what I'm talking about. Anyone subscribed to this channel has an IQ of at least 69. Now, they might be blind and retarded. I've had my subscribers, some of them have commented before in the comment section admitting that they are blind and retarded. They're both at the same time. The guy is blind. He physically can't even see or read anything. This is what he told me in the comment section. But even if some of these subscribers are blind and retarded, they still have an IQ over 69. So they get it. They understand. It's the new viewers that I'm going to get that I suspect might not enjoy this video, and I might get a lot of hate for this video. I don't know yet. We'll see. I might get a lot of people bashing me in the comment section. But this is the reality of the situation, and I'm one of the few people willing to slap my dick in your face to let you know that this is what's going on.
Gay!
I'm one of the few people willing to give it to you raw. Okay, no sugar-coated answers here, buddy. Actually, this whole video has been sugar-coated. I would have been yelling a lot more. But it's getting late here. I'll get kicked out of this building if I yell too loud. I had to get this information out because I want people to see it. New viewers that don't understand what's actually happening. I want them to see what's going on. And I want them to understand that this is normal. If you don't like the fact that Kirby's Air Ride is the price it is, or that Star Fox Assault is the price that it is, or Star Fox Adventure, then go and emulate. That's what emulation is for. Emulation's been around since the 90s. It doesn't affect prices. I was emulating NES and Super Nintendo games in the 90s, and yet Chrono Trigger is $400 today, and climbing. I can emulate that right now. I can buy it on PC right now. It doesn't matter. It's a collectible game. There are people willing to buy it. They want it in their collections, and it will sit on a shelf for 30 years. And you know what? For those that stuck around to the end, I'm going to show you a bonus. Bonus content. Here's 1080 Avalanche. Like I said, there's hundreds of examples of games where the trend is still up. Peak demand has not arrived. And this is another game, shockingly a snowboarding game, a game that you wouldn't think would actually go up in value very much. Well, it's hit all-time highs just recently, closing in on $30 US. Sold listings down here, $34, $30, $50, $30 down here, $25, $29 down here, $34.99 over here. Did this $24.99 include shipping? I don't know. What was the condition? Was a good condition? Did it have a manual? Because it does not say if it was CIB, unlike the other ones over here. So it probably was not. This is 1080 Avalanche, the sequel to 1080 Snowboarding. Chart like this is a golden goose chart. Straight line up. It ain't never stopped. Friggin' bottomed out in 2013. 2014 at $1.99. Why didn't you pay $1.99? Because nobody wanted GameCube games back then. That's why. Remember that 20-year nostalgia period? 20-year gap when a console hits 20 years old? When the people that grew up on the console, they start to get disposable income? Remember what happens to these retro game prices? When the demand increases? Last one, Simpsons Road Rage. Great example because it has that dirt cheap in comparison PS2 alternative. But look at this. Everybody wants the GameCube version. $60, $59.99 US on GameCube. For CIB Simpsons Road Rage. That's almost 100 Canadian dollars. Somebody actually paid an astronomical number. We're going to ignore that one. That is an outlier. Somebody paid close to 200 outlier though, so it can be ignored. Trading more closer to that $80, $75, $80 range, which is exactly what price charting is telling you it's at. And it looks to have hit. It's about tied with the all-time high. So basically it's at an all-time high pricing right now, today, Simpsons Road Rage. GameCube is far superior to the PS2 version. That is very likely why. In most cases, the GameCube version of whatever game it is better on the GameCube. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a comment below, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I also do have a Patreon. I post exclusive content. If you would like to support the channel, it's completely optional. It's only there for those that want to support the channel. Your support keeps this channel running. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you very much. It does mean a lot. Everybody who comments, it means a lot. I'm always open to constructive feedback. So if you thought that this was the worst video you ever seen, absolutely leave a comment and I won't make videos like this again. Well, actually, yeah, I still might, but I appreciate the feedback regardless.